Something that hits like a slap. Mine said, stop running.
Start feeling.
I laughed, actually laughed, paid my copay, and booked a one-way ticket to the Rockies that same afternoon. Guess which advice I chose to follow? I'd been running for 3 years. Not literally, though God knows I'd tried that too. I mean, the kind of running where you change cities, change jobs, change everything except the one thing that's actually broken. Sarah. Her name still felt like swallowing glass, even after all this time. The woman who'd answered my crisis hotline, call at 3 a.m., who'd talked me through the darkest night of my life, who'd become everything to me, and then chose someone else. So there I was, standing at a trailhead in Colorado with a duffel bag that looked like I was planning to homestead, squinting at a Jeep where the most insufferably confident woman I'd ever seen was leaning against the hood. Sun-kissed skin, arms that could probably bench press me, and the smirk that said she'd already figured out I was a complete disaster. You here to climb or move in? She called out, eyeing my overstuffed backpack. I glared at her. She grinned. Wider. Allison, she said, extending a hand that was all calluses and certainty. Your guide for the next week. Try not to die on my watch. Lillian, I replied, trying to match her confidence and probably failing spectacularly. I'll do my best. The infuriating thing was how hot she was, like criminally hot. The kind of hot that made you forget you were supposed to be emotionally unavailable and healing from devastating heartbreak. Her hair was this impossible shade of gold that probably came from actual sunlight instead of a bottle. And when she moved, it was like watching someone who'd never questioned their place in the world. The first day was brutal. Not the hiking, I was in decent shape, but the way she seemed to see right through every wall I'd spent years building. When I stumbled over a root, she didn't coddle me. When I got winded, she didn't slow down. When I complained about the weight of my pack, she just raised an eyebrow and kept walking. You're not here for the scenery, she said during our first water break, not even breathing hard while I was practically gasping. What's that supposed to mean? Most people come here to find something, others come to lose something. You've got that look. What look? Like you're carrying something heavier than that ridiculous backpack. I wanted to tell her to mind her own business. Instead, I found myself studying the way her eyes crinkled when she squinted at the trail ahead. The way she moved like she belonged to these mountains. It was unsettling how comfortable she seemed in her own skin when I felt like I was wearing someone else's entirely. The second day, we hit the narrow ridge. I'd been feeling pretty confident. Actually, my legs had stopped screaming. My lungs had adjusted to the altitude, and I was starting to think maybe I wasn't completely hopeless at this outdoor thing. That's when my boot decided to find the one loose rock in 1,000 square feet of solid stone. The world tilted. My stomach dropped. I had just enough time to think, this is how I die, and Sarah will never even know, before an arm shot out and hauled me back against a solid chest. I've got you, Allison said, her voice rough with exertion and something else I couldn't name. Her arms were around me, her heart hammering against my back, and for a moment neither of us moved. I could feel every breath she took, could smell the mix of sunscreen and sweat and something that was just her. My pulse was racing, and it wasn't just from the near-death experience. You okay? She asked, and I realized I'd been holding my breath. Yeah, I managed, though my voice came out shakier than I'd intended. Thanks. She didn't let go immediately. Neither did I that night. We made camp on a ledge that overlooked half of Colorado. The sunset painted everything gold and red, and Allison produced a flask from her pack like some kind of mountain wizard. Bourbon, she said, offering it to me, for the nerves. I took a sip, felt the burn, and handed it back. You do this often? Save city girls from plummeting to their deaths? More often than you'd think, though most of them don't glare at me like I personally offended them just by existing. I don't glare. You absolutely glare. It's actually kind of impressive, like you're trying to set me on fire with your mind. I laughed despite myself. Maybe I am. Why? The question hung in the air between us. I took another sip of bourbon, longer this time, and found myself looking at her, really looking. The way the firelight caught in her hair, the scar above, her left eyebrow, the complete lack of judgment in her expression. You remind me of someone, I said finally. Good someone or bad someone? That's the problem. I can't tell anymore. She was quiet for a long moment, studying me in that way that made me feel like she was reading a book I'd forgotten I'd written. Then she reached out and traced the scar on my forearm, a jagged line I'd gotten from a climbing accident years ago. Tell me the story behind this one, she said softly. I should have deflected, should have made a joke or changed the subject or done any of the thousand things I'd perfected to avoid talking about the parts of myself that hurt. Instead, I found myself telling her about Sarah, about the night I called the crisis hotline, about the woman who talked me through the worst moments of my life, about falling in love with a voice in the dark, about how she'd chosen someone else, someone who could give her the life she wanted, about how I'd been running ever since. I expected judgment, I said when I finished, surprised by how raw my voice sounded. Everyone always has an opinion about falling for someone you've never met. Did you ever meet her? Once, coffee. I struggled for words. It was perfect and terrible and wrong all at once. Like meeting someone from a dream and realizing they're real but not yours. Allison was quiet for a long time, just listening to the fire crackle and the wind through the trees. When she finally spoke, her voice was gentler than I'd heard it. Love doesn't follow logic, she said. If it did, we'd all be a lot less fucked up. Speaking from experience, always am. Something in her tone made me look at her more carefully. There was a story there, shadows in her eyes that matched the ones I carried. But before I could ask, she was standing up, banking the fire, efficient and distant again. Early start tomorrow, she said. Get some sleep. The third day brought rain. Not the gentle mountain shower I'd been imagining, but a full-scale atmospheric tantrum that turned the trail into a slip and slide and our carefully planned route into a soggy nightmare. By the time we found shelter in a shallow cave, we were both soaked through and shivering. This is cozy, I said, trying to lighten the mood as we huddled together in the tiny space. Could be worse, Allison replied, but her teeth were chattering. We stripped out of our wet clothes with the kind of practical efficiency that was supposed to be purely functional. Supposed to be. But there's something about being half naked in a cave with someone who's been occupying entirely too much of your headspace, and suddenly the air felt charged with more than just the storm outside. Body heat, she said, and it sounded like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. Right, survival. Exactly. We lay down together, skin against skin, and I tried to think about anything except the way she felt pressed against me, the way her breathing was affecting mine, the way every nerve ending in my body had suddenly woken up and started paying attention. Lillian, she said, and her voice was different, softer, uncertain in a way that made my chest tight. I turned to face her, and the space between us felt like it was crackling with electricity. Her eyes were darker than I'd ever seen them, and when her gaze dropped to my lips, I stopped breathing altogether. This is a bad idea, I whispered. Probably, she agreed, but her hand was sliding up my arm, leaving fire in its wake. And not over her. I know. I'm a mess. I know that too. Then why, she kissed me and the world exploded. Not gentle, not sweet, but desperate and hungry and everything I'd been trying not to want. I kissed her back like I was drowning and she was air. Like I'd been holding my breath for 3 years and finally remembered how to breathe. Her hands were in my hair, mine were mapping the planes of her back. And somewhere in the distance I could hear the storm raging, but it was nothing compared to the tempest she was creating inside me. Every touch was electric, every kiss was a question and an answer, and when she said my name like a prayer, I thought I might actually die from wanting her. It wasn't gentle, I would think later, when I was trying to make sense of what had happened between us. It wasn't sweet. It was teeth and thunder, and finally feeling something other than empty. We came apart in that cave like we'd been waiting our whole lives for permission to break. And when it was over, we lay tangled together while the storm raged outside and something equally powerful settled between us. Morning brought sunlight, and my phone buzzing with a text. Sarah's name on the screen, and just like that, the spell was broken. I could feel Allison watching me, could sense the exact moment she saw the name and understood. "You gonna get that?" she asked, too casual, too careful. I silenced the phone without reading the message, but it was too late. The guilt was already crawling up my throat, reminding me of every reason this was wrong, every way I was still broken, every reason I didn't deserve the way Allison was looking at me. "I can't," I said, and I wasn't sure if I meant the text or this or everything. "Can't what?" "This, us, whatever this is." She sat up and I could see her rebuilding her walls. In real time. Right, of course, because you're still in love with her. It's not that simple, isn't it? You're using me to forget her, and we both know it. The accusation hung between us like a blade, and the worst part was that I couldn't deny it. Not completely, not honestly. "That's not fair," I said, but my voice was weak. "Isn't it?" She asked again, and this time there was anger in her voice, hurt that made my chest ache. "You think I can't tell when someone's pretending I'm someone else?" I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that it wasn't like that what had happened. Between us was real and separate from everything else. But the words wouldn't come, and my silence said everything she needed to hear. She was dressed and packed before I even got my boots on. The descent was brutal not because of the terrain, but because of the careful distance she maintained between us, professional, polite, like the night before had never happened. "Allison," I tried once, but she cut me off. "Let's just finish this," she said, and I didn't have the right to argue. We barely spoke for the rest of the day. She got me back to the trailhead, helped me load my gear, and stood there looking like she was waiting for something. An apology, maybe, an explanation. Some sign that I was capable of being more than just another runner. "Take care of yourself, Lillian," she said finally, and climbed into her Jeep. I watched her drive away and felt like I was watching the last good thing in my life disappear into the distance. That was 6 months ago. 6 months of therapy sessions where I actually tried to do the work instead of just showing up. 6 months of learning the difference between running away and moving forward. 6 months of understanding that loving Sarah hadn't been wrong, but staying stuck in that love had been. And 6 months of thinking about a woman with calloused hands and a crooked smile who'd seen right through me and kissed me anyway. Which brings me to now. To standing on the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro because apparently I've decided extreme. Altitude is my new coping mechanism, staring at the horizon and trying to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do with my life. The ring box in my pocket feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. I bought it for Sarah, back when I'd still believed in fairy tales and second chances. Carried it with me like a talisman, like proof that love could conquer geography and timing. And the simple fact that some people just aren't meant to be yours. Truce? The voice makes me jump, and I turn to find Allison standing there, holding out a thermos like she's been here all along. She looks exactly the same sun-kissed and confident and completely at ease at 19,000 feet above sea level, and my heart does something complicated in my chest. What are you doing here? I ask because apparently that's the first thing my brain can manage. Funny story. I had a client cancel last minute, and I heard through the grapevine that some city girl was attempting Kilimanjaro solo. Figured I should probably make sure she doesn't die. I'm not going to die. Famous last words. Despite everything, I smile. You flew to Africa to check on me? I flew to Africa because I'm an idiot who can't stop thinking about someone who's probably still in love with her ex. The words hit like a punch to the chest, and I find myself reaching into my pocket before I can stop myself. The ring box is smooth and small and warm from my body heat. I bought this for her, I say, holding it out, 3 years ago. Been carrying it around like some kind of masochist. Allison's eyes widen, and I can see her trying to process what I'm telling her. But the woman in front of me, I continue, my voice shaking. She's the one who deserves it. She's the one who saw me at my worst and didn't run. She's the one who made me feel like I was worth saving. Lillian, I know it's crazy. I know. It's too fast and too much and probably completely insane. But I'm tired of running. I'm tired of being afraid. And I'm tired of pretending that what happened between us was just about forgetting someone else. She's staring at me like I've just spoken in a foreign language, and for a moment I think I've made a terrible mistake. Then she laughs, actually laughs, and reaches into her own pocket. You're not the only idiot carrying around jewelry, she says, pulling out a ring box that's identical to mine. I bought this about a month after you left. Figured if I was going to be hung up on someone, I might as well commit to the delusion. We're both laughing now, standing on top of the world with matching ring boxes and the kind of timing that only happens in movies or dreams. So what now? I ask because I'm still terrified of presuming too much, of wanting more than I deserve. Now, she says, stepping closer, we stop being idiots and start being something else. What's something else? Happy maybe, together, whatever that looks like. She kisses me and it's different from the cave softer, sure, like a promise instead of a question. When we break apart, I can see the whole world spread out below us. And for the first time in years, I'm not looking for an escape route. Love you, I say, because the words are true and I'm tired of carrying them around like secrets. I love you too, she says back, and it sounds like coming home. We put the rings on each other's fingers right there above the clouds with the whole world as our witness. It's not traditional, it's not planned, and it's probably completely insane. But it's ours, and after years of running from everything that scared me, I finally understand what it means to run toward something instead. Later, when people ask me about the proposal, I'll tell them it happened at the top of the world. That we were both carrying the same weight, the same hope, the same ridiculous faith that love might be worth the risk of falling. But what I won't tell them is that the real summit wasn't the mountain. It was the moment I stopped running from my own heart and started trusting it to know the difference between settling and soaring. Love, it turns out, is the only peak worth climbing. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you find someone willing to make the ascent with you. Above the clouds, with Allison's hand in mine, and the whole world spread out below us, I finally understand what my therapist meant about feeling instead of running. Some things are worth staying still for. Some people are worth the risk of falling. And some love stories begin at the end of the world, when you've run out of places to hide and finally realize that the person you've been running from is yourself. The descent is going to be long, and the real world is waiting for us at the bottom. But for now, we're above it all, and that's enough. More than enough. It's everything.